I am Dr. P.C. Verma, economist from Patna University. I have taught in Ranchi University, Magadha University, Chanakya Law University, and BIT Mesra, Patna Center. Everywhere I taught microeconomics, macroeconomics, industrial economics, econometrics, statistics, international trade, public finance. But the major thing in economics is micro and macro. Under macroeconomics, every topic will be included which has national level or international level. Today, I have come to communicate to you that the lecturer's interview is to be done in few weeks, and economics students who are appearing for lectureship. You enter into the interview board, an economics expert will ask you that what do you mean by economic growth? What will you tell? Directly, seeing in their eyes, I want to tell you that I topped #1 in BPSC interview for lectureship for Patna University in 1974. I was also taught by my teacher that interview board, you look into the eyes of experts. When you look in the eyes of experts, your face will reflect the confidence. Whether you know or whether you do not know, that is not a matter. You must be confident while telling anything to the interview board. Don't be nervous. If you don't know, you say, no, please, I don't know. But if you know, you analyze it in a very smooth way. Most important question in interview board for economics lectureship or any interview for BPSC, UPSC, officers cadre. They will ask you, what do you mean by economic growth? Economic growth is the increase in a country's economy over time. Economic growth is the increase in country's economy over time. Usually measured by the total production of goods and services or gross domestic product, GDP, very popularly known as GDP. One who has invented GDP was awarded a Nobel Prize in 1971. You find out who is the person. One who has counted GDP, he said that GDP is the soul of the economy. GDP is the soul of the economy. And that economist participated in Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire in USA, in which James Keynes also attended. And President Roosevelt particularly said, that economist, that you try to find out all 65 countries participating there, their GDP must be calculated. You have to find out that who was awarded Nobel Prize in 1970? Answer will be who was the person got the first Nobel Prize? Answer you will give answer. So in my video, Dr. P.C. Verma Economist Channel Group, I have tried to discuss each economist getting Nobel Prize and their contribution. So just see there. It is very pertinent question that who got the first prize, first Nobel Prize in 1969, and why not at that time Higgs got Nobel Prize? Who got the first prize? Belong to which country? Belong to not UK or USA? So these are the questions. We will discuss it in another class. But I give you the clue that you must consult it and have your own file that who has got Nobel Prize in which year and what are its contribution. In few lines it is available in Google. So economic growth is the increase in a country's economy over time. Economic growth is always related to time dimension. And that time is generally 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year. In USSR, it was the period when 20 years is taken the time. Is that long term? But short-term growth is yearly. What is your yearly change? You see your younger brother, who is smaller in size, but every year he has increased, and after 10 years, he is equal to you, qualifying in NEET and other exams and go to high. So these are the continuity in the process. So economic growth is the increase in country's economy over time, usually measured by the total production of goods and services, or coin the term, or gross domestic product GDP. It can also be measured in real terms, which adjust for inflation. In an interview, if you ask that, is GDP is enough to explain the economic growth? You can say economic growth is the increase in countries' economy over time, usually measured in terms of total production of goods and services, or domestic, gross domestic product, GDP. But there is one element, inflation, which is there to be taken into account for reality. And you might have heard the history of hyperinflation. And from Argentina and other countries, you can have a story that money is not in thousand, money was in million. You can find out in Google that notes, 1 million note 1 year. And by giving 1 million note, you will get tea and coffee. This was the fall in the value of money. Very important concept is value of money. And inflation must be deducted. So economists say that GDP is okay if there is increase in the country's GDP. We can say that this is economic growth, positive economic growth. If GDP decreases, then we can say that it is negative economic growth. But if we want to measure economic growth in real term, then we have to adjust GDP for inflation. That what was the inflation rate last year, or what are the inflation rate this year? This inflated position must be deducted to find out the real economic growth. I have selected this topic for discussion for you because recently, for year 2020 to 2029, International Monetary Fund, IMF, has calculated that which nations are working as emerging markets in coming 5 years. You will be surprised to see the list. In the list, real economic growth forecast is done by CAGR forecast, and it was published by IMF World Economic Outlook, April 2024, latest. April 2024 World Economic Outlook of IMF publication. IMF has published 10 countries ordering. And the top country is Guyana. And 8th country is India. In that table, when I got from the sources, country has been shown by its real GDP growth in 2024 to 2029. But there was no column for size of population of that country. You will see in Dr. P.C. Verma Economics channel, I have published it. And I put myself population side by side. Because without knowing the population, you cannot measure real GDP. Guyana is a very small country. Guyana is in South America. And in South America, Guyana is third smallest nation by land area, very small land area. Guyana is projected to be world fastest growing economy from now 2024 to 2029. What was the reason for this fast growth? And in coming 5 years, it is topper in the growth rate, real growth rate. Guyana is the fastest growing new oil producer. After recent discoveries, brought the country's oil reserve to 11 billion barrels. The country Guyana's oil production is projected to grow from 645,000 barrels per day, BPD, short form. If you ask interview, what do you mean by BPD in context of measurement of petrol? Then you can say barrels per day. BPD means barrels per day. 645,000 barrels per day. Barrel per day, what we will call BPD, to 1.2 million barrel BPD by 2027. Guyana is fastest growing emerging markets are all located in Africa and Asia. And in the chart which was published, that in 2024-29, coming 5 years, world real GDP will be 3.2%. 3.2%. Guyana, real GDP growth rate of Guyana in 2024 to 2029 will be 19.8%. Whereas India's growth rate in 2024 India's real GDP growth, CARG forecast, India's growth rate will be 6.5%. And Guyana growth rate is 19.8%. But in the IMF chart, this is mentioned, but not the population. I saw the population, that Guyana population is 8,18,725. That means 8 lakh plus 18,000. 8 lakh population, very small population. In India, there are many states having more than that population. And India and Guyana growth rate will be 19.8% with a population 8,18,725. Whereas India growth rate will be 6.5% during 2024 to 2029. Real GDP growth in India will be 6.5, with population forecast for this period 141.72 crore. That means approximately 142 crores. 142 crores, and growth rate, real growth rate is 6.5 in India. Guyana has only 8,18,000 population, and growth rate is 19.8%. So population factor is also very important to affect real growth rate. And there they are not having the factory, rather it is oil, that is a natural material, natural thing, and that lead to higher growth rate. Second position is obtained by Mozambique, 7.9%, Rwanda, 7.2%, Bangladesh, 6.8%, which is greater than India's growth rate, 6.5%. Ethiopia, 6.7%, greater than India's growth rate. Niger, 6.7%, greater than India's growth rate. Uganda, 6.6%, greater than India's growth rate. Vietnam and Senegal both are below India's growth rate. Vietnam has 6.4% growth rate, and Senegal has 6.3% growth rate. What we want to say in interview, that real growth rate, which is presented by IMF World Economic Outlook, April 2024, has shown 10 countries, Guyana, Mozambique, Rwanda, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Niger, Uganda, India, Vietnam, Senegal, represented its real growth rate. But I have not given the position of their population size. I have included it in my population I added, and I found the population that Guyana population is 8 lakh, Mozambique population 37 million, Rwanda population 1 crore, Bangladesh population 17 crore, Ethiopia population 12 crore, Niger population 2 crore, Uganda population 4 crore, India population 142 crore, Vietnam population 9 crore, Senegal population 1 crore. So population factor must be taken as one of the basic factor which will lead to the lower real GDP. If the size of population is very small, then the real GDP will be very high. And especially while calculating GDP, you take the case of from agriculture side. India has basic agricultural productions, agriculture side, and Guyana has got natural petrol and oil producer. After recent discovery brought the Guyana country oil reserve to 11 billion barrels, and per day BPD is 6,45,000 to 1.2 million BPD by 2027. So it is interesting to find out that emerging markets, mostly very small country, and their market position, growth rate is shown there. And if seeing the position of variability in production size, then the real condition will emerge. In next class, I would like to find out the debt position, कर्ज, कितना country कर्ज में फंसा हुआ है, debt management, debt problems in the world. We will discuss in next class. Thank you very much. This is for your interview tips. You can utilize it for that purpose.